Andrew Hutchinson joins me on Monday morning. I, of course, am Chris Lee of Southeastern 14, presented by Bearded Iris. He's Andrew Hutchinson of Best of Arkansas Sports. Andrew, thanks for joining me. I mean, your world, man. I don't know how many arms you have to juggle everything, but you got a spring game. You had a huge baseball series. It was maybe bigger than normal. I hear you got a basketball coach who's adding transfers like 3 a day or something like that. Thanks for taking a time out of your busy schedule to join us.
Yeah, no problem. Love talking some baseball, but you're right. It's a extremely busy time of the year, especially when you got Eric Musselman running around like crazy.
Well, I know Arkansas fans are excited about a lot of stuff, but where does sweeping Tony Vitello and the Vols, and my understanding is I don't know that those guys, are grabbing dinner and sending Christmas cards. I think on the surface it sounds like it's better, but where does that rank on the excitement scale in Fayetteville right now?
Oh yeah, people are really fired up. They do not like Tennessee. I mean, I don't know how many people do like Tennessee right now. I think they relish kind of the bad guy kind of persona, and so that ranks up there. I mean, especially with Tony Vitello, his history as a former Arkansas assistant, and throw in the fact that how the series went 2 years ago in Knoxville, where Arkansas won 2 out of 3, and there was a little bit of an argument between Vitello and
Mm-hmm.
Van Horn afterwards. So there was a lot of hype going into this weekend, and there was already a lot of people, maybe more than usual in town for the spring game. So it just kind of just added to everything, and it was an awesome atmosphere this weekend for sure, especially with the good weather and everything.
What was the reception like for Tony Vitello? I'm going to say I watched maybe half the series, but I'm watching a couple games at once, trying to keep an eye on the league. And I think I had the volume down. I'm also competing for the second TV with my 9-year-old son, who's a huge Braves fan. So that sometimes you gotta pick and choose your battles. But anyway, point is, I didn't get to see. I saw it. I didn't get to always hear it. How did that go over when Tony Vitello and the Vols rolled in?
It wasn't as maybe chippy as I expected. I think Tony Vitello kind of kept everything in check this week, and he wasn't, out there arguing with, umpires or anything like that. If he had been, I think it would have gotten really rowdy. But I mean, I don't even really think they booed him like whenever they came out to, before the game to exchange lineup cards or anything like that. I think there's still a portion of the fan base, even as much as Arkansas fans don't like Tony Vitello. There's still a portion of the fan base that's like, when Dave Van Horn retires, maybe Vitello is going to come back to Arkansas and be the head coach. I personally don't think that's going to happen, but there is a segment of the fan base that thinks that. But I think all things considered, it was relatively calm over the weekend, and also part of that's just because Arkansas took care of business, and they were able to just kind of you know really, I don't even know if they trailed very little in this series. I think they trailed like after the top of the first inning a couple of times, but they always answered right back, and that was it. So there really wasn't a chance to really get on Vitello, like you maybe expected before the series.
Well, it was more of a little bit of an old school series in terms of the scores. You're not seeing 13 and 11s. It was Arkansas gave you 8 runs all weekend, which is terrific against anybody, anytime. I think made 2 errors, got some timely hitting, hit some long balls. Arkansas won each game by at least 3 runs. What stood out to you on the weekend as a whole?
I think Arkansas's pitching really impressed me because I think we all know Tennessee's got a really good lineup, and for them to hold them to 7 runs for the weekend was really impressive. Especially whenever they used your top two guys on in game one. Hunter Hollan goes 6 innings, and then Hagen Smith closes it out 3 inning save. And you're like, oh man, I mean, it's great to have one win, but how are they going to get through these next two games? Will McEntire has been a little hit and miss, but he was very good. Gave you 6 strong innings. Gage Wood is a freshman that's come on strong. He's now had 3 saves in 3 weekends to clinch a series, and gives you another 3 inning save. So you've used 2 pitchers to the first, or 4 pitchers to the first 2 games, and you're like, okay, well, I even told my wife before the game 3. I said, I don't know how Arkansas is going to win this third game because they don't have any pitching left. Well, lo and behold, they get a freshman, Ben Bybee, goes out there, gives them 3 strong innings, 3 1/3. They turn it over to Dylan Carter, who's been pretty, surprisingly good this year. He gives them 4 2/3, and then you have this lightly used freshman pitches the final inning, goes 3 up, 3 down to close out the 7-2 win. To me, the pitching this weekend was really, really impressive because that's been a little bit of a struggle this year, because of injuries. It's not because they just stunk. I mean, they 3 of your top arms have been hurt, and to go out there and pitch like that against a team like Tennessee on a big stage, a lot of people in the stands, to me, it was really, really impressive, especially when 3 of the 7 guys they used were true freshmen.
Yeah, Arkansas gave up 20 hits on the weekend. I think 3 home runs. I was digging through some box scores as you were speaking there. But that's the thing. The thing that you said was the thing I said. We do recaps after every set of games, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And after the Friday, I said, hey, this will be interesting because I think the pitching could tip to Tennessee now because they hadn't thrown any of their normal starters. And I just thought the same thing. I thought, I don't know if Arkansas has got enough arms to get through this, but they used 7 the whole weekend, which you'll take that any day. And what I'm seeing is it seems like it's Carter and Wood are guys, and Hagen Smith is like their utility guy. They're kind of used like they use Cops or Landon Sims. I mean, it's not exact, but it's that high leverage guy that can throw you several innings. Well, he'd been burned on Friday, but it seems like Carter and Wood are giving them a lot of really good innings these days. And not only do they get good innings, but they got 4 2/3 out of one and 3 out of the other. And when you can find a bunch of guys that you can stretch out for 3 or 4 innings, that is a big key in winning a series. I feel like Dave Van Horn is getting just a little bit more and more and more out of these guys every weekend. And these weren't really names we knew coming into the year, Hutch.
Exactly. I mean, you knew Hunter Hollan, you knew Hagen Smith, you knew Will McEntire, but Dylan Carter was a guy that I thought maybe he'll contribute this year because he's a guy that he's a local kid. He's from just up the road in Bentonville. Went to a JUCO for a couple of years. Was okay. Came back to Arkansas, redshirted last year. Redshirted as a JUCO transfer. You don't really see that very much. And then goes and pitches in the Northwoods League last summer and actually puts together a really good summer. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe he'll be a guy that can help here and there, maybe a midweek guy or something. And lo and behold, a few weeks into the season, he just he gets an opportunity and he runs with it. And he was critical in them beating, I think maybe Illinois State in a midweek game. Then he was really critical in the following weekend to help them win a game. Now he's basically I would say, I mean, as you said, Hagen Smith Dave Van Horn likes to call him the wild card. They can use him out of the bullpen. If he doesn't have to pitch out of relief, he can start a game, whatever. But your top true bullpen guy might be Dylan Carter, and I did not see that coming at all. And then Gage Wood was a guy that he's a true freshman. He has all the talent in the world, and he goes out there the first pitch he throws is in the Arlington college baseball. Can't remember what they call it, but the big event. There's like 20,000 people in the stands. He goes out there, first pitch. I think he inherited maybe bases loaded, and first pitch he throws, it's a single, scores a couple of runs. Next batter walks him on 4 pitches. Next batter walks him on 5 pitches, and he's out of the game. And Dave Van Horn has said that when he went out there to get the ball from him, his hand was shaking. He was so nervous, like he was white as a ghost. And he's like, okay, you're going to learn from this. You're going to be better because of this. And sure enough, I mean, last three weekends, he has to go out there and earn a save in the series clinching win against some really good SEC teams, and been just a tremendous development in that regard. So those are 2 guys that they definitely are counting on moving forward, especially depending on what happens with Brady Tigert. He's supposed to be coming back in the next couple of weeks. If you can add him to the mix with those guys, now you're starting to talk about a pretty dangerous pitching staff.
Yeah, so they've had him out. Jax Wiggins is done for the year. Who else is missing at this point?
Cody Frank, transfer from Nebraska. He was
Yeah.
going to be their top middle reliever guy, and he got hurt. I think maybe the same week that Brady Tigert went down. And I think it was a torn pec maybe, or torn lat. No, torn lat. should be back next year. But yeah, that was a big loss too. I mean, between Wiggins, Frank, and Tiger, I mean, you're looking at well over 100 innings that you lost right there.
Did they lose? Is it Wagner or Wagner?
It's
Jared
pronounced
Wagner.
it's pronounced Wagner. It's
Okay,
spelled
so I'm
Wagner.
not crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we didn't know that until 4 or 5 weeks into the season. Dave Van Horn didn't even know it. He's like, yeah, he just kind of randomly told us like, hey, yeah, it's actually Wagner. And we're like, oh, why didn't you tell us that?
Right. Now, did I see he got hurt on Friday?
He actually got hurt in the midweek series against Little Rock. First game on Tuesday, first inning actually, sliding into third base, and has a hairline fracture in his left thumb. Just another deal with Arkansas. Losing Jalen Catalon in football season, KJ Jefferson got hurt in football season, then you lose Trevin Brazil early in basketball season. Nick Smith Jr. goes down, then Jackson Wiggins, and then Cody Frank, Brady Tiger. Now Jared Wagner, one of your probably top 2 hitters, goes down, leads the team in home runs, RBIs, second in batting average. Just a phenomenal player, pretty solid defensively in left field. He goes down. Originally, Dave Van Horn told us that he might be ready for Friday against this past weekend, and then turns out, well, we're going to give him some time off. He's getting close, and the next thing you know, he's like, well, it may be 3 to 4 weeks, and now they're looking at maybe him being back, hopefully back for the regular season finale at Vandy. That way you'll get geared up for postseason. But that's it's a significant blow. To sweep Tennessee without him in the lineup too just makes it even more impressive what Arkansas did this weekend.
Yeah, I was thinking today, like if I had to pick coach of the year, this is a brutally tough field to pick from because I think Dave Van Horn is absolutely on the list. I think that Nick Migione is absolutely on the list. I think Tim Corbin is absolutely on the list. Mark Kingston is absolutely on the list. And then there's Jay Johnson too at LSU, who's got the number 1 team in the country. You could say, well, look at the talent. Well, he also put that together. I mean, it's going to be a fascinating discussion, but I'm floored by the job Dave Van Horn does year in and year out. It seems like they always get guys hurt. It's not maybe the most talented team. I mean, the Arkansas is very talented, don't get me wrong, but it may not be like 1-1 when you're putting up your list preseason, but he just finds a way to do this every year.
Yeah, I actually was talking to somebody after the game on Sunday, and I was like, how in the world is this team 11-4 in SEC play? Like, I don't get it. Like, before the year, if everybody healthy, I thought this team could compete for a national championship. I thought they were that good. And then you have all those injuries we just talked about. And I was like, man, if you adjust your expectations based on those injuries, you're thinking, wow, this team's still gonna be good. They're gonna make the postseason. Maybe they can get hot and make a run like they did last year. But I'm thinking you're probably not going to be a top 5, top 10 team. But here they are. They are 100% a top 5 team in the country, in my opinion. They're leading the West by a game and a half. They're right up there in the overall SEC standings. So I mean they're a very, very good team, and Dave Van Horn deserves a ton of credit. I mean, he's worked his magic with the pitching staff. He's been very creative in how he's used Hagen Smith. That's a guy that personally, I think he should be starting because you want to get 6 innings out of him or something like that out of a weekend instead of just 3. But I mean, he's placed an importance on we have to win game 1, and then he just trusts his offense his other pitchers are going to do just enough, and his offense is going to score enough runs to where you can at least split the next 2, and boom, you win the series. And so far, so good. They've done that every weekend except for the LSU series down in Baton Rouge. But I mean, LSU, as you said, number 1 team in the country. So I would say Dave Van Horn has an excellent case to be SEC Coach of the Year. I mean, so do the other coaches as well. But what he's had to overcome in terms of injuries and everything, they've got their shortstop right now at Arkansas is hitting 100 in SEC play. Their catcher has been not very productive at the plate. I mean, that's 2 almost automatic outs in the lineup, and they're still doing this. The injury to Wagner has forced Kendall Diggs, who had been their DH, a converted infielder, to play right field, and you can tell he's not a natural outfielder. He's had some rough moments out there, and all that's going on, and here they are, 11-4 in SEC play. It's pretty remarkable.
Well, the other thing that stands out, it seems like that lineup, that top half has just been on fire lately. It feels like, I guess Josenberger doesn't just feel like, I think he homered in all 3 games this weekend. Diggs has been hitting the ball well. Is it Bohrofen, Jace Bohrofen?
Yeah, Bohrofen.
The pronunciation and the spelling don't match up, so that one always gives me the yips. But I mean, he's been on fire lately. Slavens can probably hit better than he's hit, and Stovall is not really. I mean, he's been good, but it's not been maybe top 10 hitter in the league good like we thought could happen. I mean, this is a lineup that even with the guys at the bottom, it's just been a handful to pitch to lately. It seems like.
Yeah, absolutely. They've been probably better than I expected, except for those bottom two guys I mentioned that are kind of automatic outs. But I mean, Tavian Josenberger as a leadoff man has been excellent. He works the count. The other day he started the game. I think it was against Dolander, an 11 pitch walk to start the game. And that kind of really set the tone. Really helped get Dolander's pitch count up and get him out of the game. I believe in the 5th inning, something like that. So that was he's been phenomenal. A huge pickup from Kansas. He hit 3 home runs in 2 years at Kansas, and he's got 7 right now for Arkansas this year. So he's been phenomenal. Plus he plays a great center field as well. Jace Bohrofen, I believe, is very underrated in terms of nationally because everyone knows Dylan Cruz is hitting 500. I mean, he's amazing. Everyone knows what Jack Caglione, I hope I said that right, at Florida is doing.
I've heard that one pronounced different ways too. Yeah,
I think he's got like 21 home runs, something like that at Florida. I mean, he's phenomenal. But and there's been obviously other hitters in the league that are incredible. But Jace Bohrofen is right up there with them, and he's before Sunday's game, he had homered in 4 straight games. He hitting over 400. So I mean, he's been phenomenal. So I think the lineup as a whole, and another guy that I just think deserves some mention is Caleb Cali. I think he's hitting about 250, but he's a guy that started off the year super slow. Down in Arlington the first weekend, I think he goes 0 for 8 with 7 strikeouts, and he grounded into a double play. About as miserable of a weekend as you could have offensively. And he's finally kind of started to turn the corner. He's a guy that has a ton of power, can hit the ball a long way, can hit for average. And we're finally, I think he's got a nice little 5 or 6 game hitting streak, something like that going on. He's starting to hit the ball as your third baseman. So I think that would be that lineup is starting to really come together, especially if they could get anything out of their catcher and shortstop, John Bolton and Parker Rowland. That would be huge. When John Bolton reaches, I think he reached base via walk or hit by pitch, and he had an infield single this past weekend like 5 times, and Arkansas scored every inning, and usually 3 or 4 runs. So that just kind of shows you when they get production at the bottom of the lineup, they're very, very good offensively.
You brought up something too that I noticed as I was following this series. Okay, let's go back to Friday night. Andrew Lindsay, who's I guess Tennessee's closer, goes 3 innings, gives up 4 runs, 2 earned, 58 pitches in 3 innings. Not awful, but not great out of your starter. Seth Halverson actually went 43 in 3 innings, which is pretty good, but they burned him on Friday night, basically. So you get to Saturday, and they're throwing Dolander, who was everybody's pick as probably best pitcher in the country coming in, depending on what you thought or didn't think of Paul Skeens. And he goes 4 1/3, but it takes him 93 pitches to do it. That's amazing. Like if you can, Dolander's a strike thrower. Always has been since he's been at Tennessee. He's been a little wilder, but 93 pitches. That was very impressive. You go down to Camden Sewell, who I thought was going to have a heart attack on the mound from all the borderline pitches he wasn't getting. He's a strike thrower. Goes an inning and 2/3, 51 pitches. I mean, that might be right there why Arkansas wins the Sunday game. Then you get to Drew Beam, another very pitch efficient guy. I think he's thrown complete games, maybe 90, 95 pitches or under. It takes him 62 pitches to get through an inning and 2/3, and he's walking guys. When your take sign, well, not take sign, when you're taking pitches against those guys and they're just missing, and you're running at pitch counts, you're taking free passes, you're doing all the things they do. That can be pretty demoralizing, and I think that had a lot to do with why they won.
That's a calling card of this Arkansas lineup is they drive pitch counts up. I mean, we know that the starting pitching in the SEC is elite. You're going to have the Paul Skeens, you're going to have the Chase Dolanders, all these kind of guys. They're really, really good. Well, the way to get them out of the game is get their pitch count up and get to the bullpen. And there's still good guys back there, but maybe you can manage them a little bit better than you can, guys throwing 97, 98, 99 miles an hour every time. So that's been what they did. I mean, Chase Dolander threw 27 pitches in the first inning on Saturday, and he only allowed 2 base runners: the 11 pitch walk to start the inning, and then the 447-foot home run to Jace Bohrofen. And other than that, I mean, he retired all the other guys. Then I think at one point he retired 11 straight. But even the 3 up, 3 down innings were requiring 17, 18, 19 pitches because Arkansas was fouling off 2 strike pitches. They were getting into full counts. Just really good plate discipline, laying off the borderline stuff. And I know, you mentioned Camden Sewell and, Arkansas fans at times this weekend were losing their mind over the umpires. One of the great things about this year is we've got this little TrackMan screen in the press box, and it shows the strike zone. I know baseball fans don't want to hear this, but umpires do a pretty good job, if we're being honest. They miss a call here and there, but usually it's pretty good. I've been very impressed. Like, wow, that was actually a strike. I didn't know. So yeah, but Arkansas, they've got a really good feel for that strike zone. And when the umpire's calling it correctly and everything, they can drive an opponent's pitch count up very quickly, and then that's when they do their damage. I mean, they usually, I can't tell you how many times I've seen a SEC ace come in, project a first round pick. He gets through 3 or 4 innings, but his pitch count's like up in the 80s. 5th inning rolls around, boom, you pounce on him for 3 runs. He's out of the game. Bullpen comes in and they run away with it. That's kind of how Arkansas has done it for the last several years, and this team does it especially well, in my opinion.
Yeah, the bats and the balls are not helping the pitching. That could be a whole other podcast. I don't know exactly what's going on there. I have an idea, but I've noticed the same thing. I sit next to the TrackMan guy a lot of times when I'm at games, and now they'll tell you it's not always. I don't know what the software they have at Vanderbilt is when I'm in the press box there, but it's something, and they've told me like it doesn't always line up. It may give a strike or a ball that's not, but I'm too amazed at how often is a pitch that might look like it's that much outside and like, no, it hit the corner. I did see a bad one this weekend on Sunday, but for the most part, these guys are pretty good. But I want to ask you before you go, your take on Tennessee, because there were some interesting tweets floating around this weekend, 1 or 2 before they got deleted. I saw a team that looked flustered at times. They spent a good bit of time kicking the ball around the field, which is just hard to do in this league given the way guys hit. What was your take on that team as it left this weekend?
I feel like they've got a lot of guys that can hit the ball. They used a different starting shortstop all 3 games. I know Maui Ahuna is dealing with some back issues. I know that I'm trying to think. They pinch hit a lot of guys, and I mean they had some guys that I never even heard of that were hitting the ball really, really hard. So I feel like they've got a good lineup. They just got to put it all together in terms of piecing together an actual an inning where they can score a few runs. Pitching wise, they've got the talent. I mean, I thought Dolander was really good, except for the fact that, as we talked about, Arkansas got his pitch count up. I thought that this may have been the weekend where Chase Burns gets back on track because he pitched in relief after Beam and was very, very effective. I think he only gave up 1 run and I was really impressed by Burns. And he's the guy that I think came in with an ERA over 6, which was very surprising. So that was. I was impressed with that. But you mentioned they just boot the ball around defensively. I couldn't believe how many mistakes they made in the field, just errors all over the place and routine plays. And I was a little bit surprised by that because I thought, traditionally they've been at least pretty decent. So I was, and of course, Arkansas had a handful of errors here and there that maybe not the cleanest defensive, series. But yeah, that was my biggest thing. It's like, man, they gave away a lot. And I think I was talking to a Tennessee reporter in the press box. I think he said that they're averaging like 2 unearned runs allowed per game in SEC play or something like that. And You can't do that in the SEC. As good as everybody is in the SEC, that's why they're 5-10 or whatever it is right now. It's a little bit surprising that is not better than what it is.
Well, Hutch, the schedule gets a little easier. Road trip to Georgia, although the Bulldogs no pushover at Foley Field, as Kentucky found out. A&M, that'll be an interesting one. A&M could put some runs on the board. I'm not sure they can pitch with Arkansas. Trip to Starkville, that's a lot more interesting than I would have thought it was. Mississippi State has suddenly figured out how to pitch out of the blue. And then ending the season with South Carolina in Fayetteville and Vandy and Nashville. Hopefully I'll see you in Nashville for that one. I'm sure we will have opportunity to have you on again. Is you're covering just a really fascinating baseball season. Tell folks where they can find your coverage, please.
Yeah, so I'm on bestofarkansassports.com. It's a free site, so everything I write you can read without worrying about a paywall. I'm covering every baseball game, midweek or weekends. So you can check it out there. And plus, you can also find me on Twitter at NWA Hutch. I tweet everything out there, and I also tweet out coverage from the game as well. So you can find it all there, and hopefully you like what you see if you're looking for some Arkansas coverage.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite people in the sports media business. He's Andrew Hutchinson. He's a good dude, great at what he does. Hutch, thanks for joining us, and we'll catch up with you again soon.
Sounds good. Anytime.
All right, thanks for watching us here at Southeastern 14, presented by Bearded Iris. Remember, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. That helps our analytics. That helps us get found. That helps you get notified when we are putting out content. And we're doing something on SEC baseball pretty much every day, sometimes twice a day. So, again, that's the best way to catch it. Okay, I'm Chris Lee of Southeastern 14, again, presented by Bearded Iris. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.